Even though it's been 30 years ago since I left this place, I still have nightmares about it. The green ceiling of the paint that when you used to wake up in the morning time and we would look and see if everything that happened to us, if it was real, and I would open my eyes and I would see this green ceiling and it would remind me that I was in prison. And even now, 30 years later, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'll open my eyes and I'll look at the ceiling and then I'll realize that it's not green, that I'm not in prison anymore. And then I can relax after I realize, oh, wait a minute, it's not green. So that means it's white and that means I'm not in prison. And even though like I said, it's been 30 years, I still have nightmares about it.
My name is Lynn Burke. I am an attorney and I'm also an ex-offender. I went to prison twice in my life. When I was 19, I'm trying to remember, it was in Tennessee for shoplifting. And I violated my probation and I had to do 6 months there. I managed to get out after the 6 months and went back to Tennessee where my parents were and where my children were. And so then after I left from Tennessee and I moved to North Carolina, my mother passed away and she was the only person that was really supporting me with my single 4 children that I had by myself. We were living in the projects, and she died. And when she did, I violated my probation because I wasn't able to take care of myself and my children at that time. And within 6 months after that, I was in prison here in North Carolina with a 10-year sentence. My children were with their father, who was he had addiction to cocaine. So my children were with him. And like I said, I was in the prison. And while I was there, which was in June of 1988, I was looking at 10 years and I didn't know if I should even be alive because what kind of mother has their children goes to prison twice, has 4 children, and they're home with a drug addicted daddy. And so I just, wanted to die. I thought that I wasn't supposed to be here, and I figured that maybe my kids would be better without me. After 6 months of being in the prison, it was a night before Christmas Eve, and I was in the hole at that time because it sounds strange, but I was having a lot of fights with people. Everybody was scared of me a little bit because I just didn't care, and I really just wanted to die. And one of the guards came banging on the cell that I was in saying, "Come on, you gotta visit." And I was like, "I'm not going to no visit." She's like, "Yes, you are. You're gonna go." Because she was a really nice lady, one of the guards. And she's like, "Well, Lynn, would you do it for me?" And I remember going, "Oh gosh." I was like, "Okay, I'll go. Okay." So I walked through the prison. So like I said, I was in the hole, right? So literally, it was 7 gates between me and where I had to go to this, to somebody who was visiting me, to the visiting. And I walk in and open the door, and my kids came running to me. And they were all dressed up with their Christmas clothes, and they were running, "Mommy, why did you leave us?" And I remember just saying, "Oh my God, you know what?" It was like at that minute that I realized that they needed me, and they didn't have anybody else. And so I had to get myself together. And I told my children, I said, "Look, I'm coming back as soon as I can. So I told my son Jimmy, I said, look, he was 5 at the time, and I said, look, I need you to look out for your sisters. I need you to make sure that, if your daddy's, doing something that he shouldn't be doing, you make sure that the window's open in your room so that if anything happens or whatever, you get your sisters out of the house, out of the window. Make sure that everything, that you take care of your sisters, and I'll be there as soon as I can. And I remember Jimmy telling me, okay, I'll do my best. And I was like, I'll be there as soon as I promise I'm coming, I promise. So after when they left, I was walking me back to the hole, and I asked God to give me another chance to take care of my children. And I told God, I swear to God, if He just give me that chance, I would do whatever He told me to do. Within probably another year later, I finally got out. It was me and the kids by ourselves. I got rid of their daddy, and we just started doing what we had to do to make sure that my children were able to get their lives straight. And I always wanted my children to be able to, dream and be whatever they wanted to. But see, I knew that I couldn't do anything with my life. I kept trying to get a job. I would go to different places, and I wouldn't tell them about my background, so I could at least try to get a job for a little while until they realized that I had a criminal record.
In our country, if you end up with a criminal record, it can dog you the rest of your life. We have a very unforgiving system. And we know in our country, as Brian Stevenson says, we have a 2-tiered system. It's based on if you're rich and guilty, you'll probably get off. And if you're not, you're probably going to get in trouble, and you probably have a criminal record. So it's basically the poor and innocent end up getting a bad situation, becomes worse for them.
We let somebody out of prison, they can't find a job, they can't go back to school, they can't find a house. More than likely, because of prison, they have not been able to keep in touch with their family and keep a support network. And then we expect them to go on and not go back to the gray economy. We expect them to be perfect citizens. And none of us are.
In America, we have 5% of the Earth's population and 25% of the Earth's prisoners. 2 out of 3 people who are released from prison, and 98% will be getting out one day, are back in that jail cell, that prison cell, within 3 years of their release date. That's a business model that doesn't work. And if you find out what happened, they almost always say the same thing. Didn't have affordable housing, didn't have a job, didn't have the drug treatment that left untreated when I went into prison.
Our view at AFP, it generally is, and when you pay your debt to society, you should be welcome back to society.
When I was on the street and I had clear evidence that you committed a crime or whatever, then I arrested based on the evidence. And then it was up to the court systems to decide your guilt and what your sentence to be. And what we find is that sometimes the punishment is harsher than the crime.
I worked in a jail for 2 years, and I saw people come in there that it's a revolving door. You would let them out of jail. You would say, hey man, good luck. Here's some resources. Here's a local church that might can help you. Here's some counselors. And that came from the goodness of your heart. The jails didn't ask you to give that stuff out to them. They didn't provide a lot of government assistance, a lot of help to figure out ways to get these people out of this door. And that was one of my big heartstrings that got pulled, was when AFP started working on criminal justice reform. I wanted to be a part of that.
There's barriers to reentry, good housing, a good job, a record that's going to make it very hard to do many of the things that the rest of us take for granted.
Technology is a barrier Transportation is a barrier. Housing is a barrier. In fact, the barriers are insurmountable. And so with us recognizing as an agency the barriers, those are the things that we try to ensure that we support people in, knowing that it's a barrier. What that looks like in action at Link, the grace, the redemption, the reconciliation, it looks like really, truly, and authentically providing individuals with the support of second chances. We support people, and people turn literally their setbacks into comebacks and become these giants in our community.
We had been contacted by people who provided services to folks in the community, who were working with people who were trying to get back on their feet for any number of reasons. And they were saying, we have so many people with criminal records that act as a barrier for all the things we're trying to get them accomplished with, either finding housing, getting trained, and then getting a job. And they go, what can we do about it? Back in 2018, that there were groups that were interested in this. AFP was one of those, Americans Conservative Union. They had networks of other organizations they were working with around the country. We knew that was going on. And so when we came together to just talk about what we were trying to do, it was readily apparent that we were all of the same mind, that we had a criminal justice system that on the back end was failing people.
We were asked to come into North Carolina by different groups, both left and right, good friends of mine on both sides. And we came down, and I think it was starting in 2018 or so, is when they started that movement. But it started longer before that, but we were asked to come down then. And we worked with, like I said, different groups. David Plouffe, who was President Obama's campaign manager for his first campaign, and was working with the Zuckerberg Group on second chances. And David Safavian from ACU, a really good friend of mine, the three of us worked together. And we went down and we just started to talk to legislators. We were working with advocates, and we kept coming back because that's what you have to do.
We're supposed to be the land of the prosperous, the land of the free, the home of the brave. These are people that went out and served their time. They went through probation, parole, they paid all their fines. They don't owe the state anything. All they're wanting is to live their life. So it was something that people across the aisle came across, and everybody worked together. We had organizations like the ACLU, the NAACP, Americans for Prosperity, Conservatives for Criminal Justice Reform. Those are organizations that aren't often linked together. And that was something that everybody held hands, and we marched to Raleigh and told the legislators this is something that had to happen.
North Carolina gave us the opportunity to work with both sides of the political aisle. Organizations across the political spectrum that all put aside their petty differences and focused on criminal justice reform. To be candid, that's how we work. And it's not as though we're giving up our core principles to work with our friends on the left, or that they're giving up their core principles to work with their friends on the right. But what we found is that both sides can look at an issue set and come up with their own way to get something fixed, but we can all agree that there is a problem that needs to be fixed, and it's exactly that type of coalition politics that we found so effective wherever we've been.
I think it surprised the public in some ways. I think it surprised the General Assembly in a lot of ways, and they hadn't seen anything like that, I think, really ever before, where you had such a coming together of not only state groups, but also on a national level, investing in the idea that we ought to be able to get the Second Chance Act passed, and it was worthy of North Carolina doing, and it had all this attention from groups that span the spectrum.
I've worked with Bill for 15 years, and usually we feel like we're trying to just get something. The power of this coalition made it so different for us. It was just it was fun. Once the bill, once it started rolling, it sailed through the Senate unanimously very quickly. And then it took a year to get to the House. And we were worried. We were worried it wasn't going to happen.
What we were hearing behind the scenes was that there was one county district attorney that just plain didn't like the bill and was convincing his legislator to stand in the way. Ultimately, there was so much pressure applied that I think he relented, and we were just thrilled when the bill passed overwhelmingly in both chambers. That it was incredibly gratifying.
Just within the last hour, Governor Cooper has signed the Second Chance Act into law. Now, this bill sets up people who have been found not guilty or have had charges against them dismissed to have their records expunged.
It's a way of just making sure that when it comes to the criminal justice process, that someone is just not being dogged for the rest of their life with one indiscretion.
At the end of the day, this will help people, help their families, help society, and it's going to really save the citizens of North Carolina a lot of money, because it costs a lot of money for people to be incarcerated, and then when they're on probation, it's all just really costly. And so for people who have done the right things, made mistakes and moved on, we need to be much more about redemption and rehabilitation rather than just retribution.
I think it was a great day when the Second Chances Act passed in North Carolina. I think it made us safer overnight, and I think it did a lot to improve the economic situation of people. People are talking about second chances, community building, reconciliation now like never before. This has been the right thing to do for years. It's time for everybody to come around this issue, wherever they might be in the justice system, wherever they might be as a community leader. We need to all work together to keep our community safe by sincerely engaging in second chances and understand that there are a category of people who do need incarceration, who do need punishment, and unapologetically we're going to continue to do that. But there's also a whole lot more people out there who need a second chance, and we all need forgiveness.
I think, and we think at AFP, that we should give people real second chances, because when you do that, it's the right thing from a moral perspective, it's the right thing from a constitutional perspective as well, and ultimately it's the right thing from a fiscal perspective and a public safety perspective.
Number one, I was excited. And as I started sharing that with our residents, there is the Second Chance Alliance, and then there's a Second Chance Act, and as a result, it is passed, and this is what it's going to look like come December. And when we started sharing what that looks like, man, our residents was like, say that again? Oh man, I'm gonna be able to get some of these barriers out my way so there's freedom. I'm gonna be able to enjoy opportunities that some of the collateral consequences created, even with some of my licensure. Oh man, I might be able to be a normal citizen again, or at least people or employers might be able to look at me like a normal citizen again.
Most of these people, they have children, they have family, and you're gonna feed your kids. I work every day to take care of my family, and to have the few things that I have in life, they're the same way. I mean, you wanna act like they're a different part of society, that they're non-human. They're as human as we are. They just made some bad decisions.
When I first realized that it was possible that this was going to happen, that they were going to dismiss my stuff, I remember I was driving over there. I live in Nightdale, so I was driving down the street, and I said to myself, wow, I said, man, I could be whatever I want to be. And I just kind of sat there for a few minutes. I was like, if this really happens, I could go be a medical examiner. That's what I always wanted to be. I always thought that'd be cool. So I was like, I could go over there and just file out an application, and I could do that. It was weird. It just hits me for a few minutes, and I was like, it allows you to dream. Like when you're a little kid And everybody says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then people say, oh, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor, you know? So it makes me kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe I could be a medical examiner. And if I don't, it's my own fault, because I could do it if I wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Like a little kid with a dream. And I used to always say, well, yeah, but no dreams no more, but it is now.
My name is Daquan Peters.
My name is Erica Bailey.
My name is Sharon Green.
I've recently served 12 and a half years in the Federal Bureau of Prison.
Currently charged with robbery and breaking and entering.
Altogether in my lifetime, as far as going back to prison, it's got about 5 years of my life. For me, having a second chance means all flags up, do the right thing, and accomplish my goals, and have everything expunged that was from my past. And don't look back and keep it moving forward. That's what second chance means to me.
Yeah, I made a mistake and I did this and I did that. And even though I'm a felon, it's like I still have a bright future. I can still do things that I wanted to do. And I can show her that even though mommy messed up, she got herself together, not only for her, but for you. So it's a big thing right now in my life to have a second chance and to be able to say I did it even though I was a felon.
Man, it's just so many people to thank for this. Like, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. I'm just so thankful, man. I'm thankful to be here because I wasn't supposed to be here. And I just want to thank everybody that played a part in my life up to this point, and the people that's just still continue to be there for me. Thank you.